Hey guys, you're watching VaulSC. This weekend, me and a couple of the guys from Auckland drove down to Hamilton, which is a town about an hour's drive south of the main city, Auckland, there where we live. And we met up with a few guys who play down there that we hadn't really played before. Their little meta, their little community had been isolated from ours for quite a while, so it was really good to link up with them and play a few games. As you guys know, I do a little bit of a circuit of sort of playing 4 or 5 guys over and over and over and over again, so it was just really awesome to get a game with a couple of dudes who I'd never played before on some tables that look completely different to the ones that I play on. And obviously I can use that for my bat rep as well. So heading down there with my combined army packed up, I played one game with vanilla combined, which I'm going to report on right now. And the next video bat rep that I'll do later on will be Morats against Yu Ching. So showing up here, we decided to crank out a game of Acquisition. That's the mission where you really have to wait till the end of the game to start scoring. Obviously, you've got a classified objective and an HVT, but there are going to be 3 objectives through the middle. There's going to be a central objective that you want to move to with your data tracker and end the game with your data tracker on it. And then there are 2 side objectives where you want to press the button with your specialist and potentially leave your specialist in base-to-base contact with it for additional points. Unfortunately, I didn't really take a picture that's a really good overview of the table itself. I guess this one might be. But as you guys can see, the battlefield is using the old classic Games Workshop Warhammer/40k sections where you've got the 2 foot by 2 foot square, which is sort of modular. It's got the rolling hills and mass graves or skulls underneath the earth. Obviously, you can customize it yourself by putting some flock over it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And of course, a whole bunch of MDF blocks being assembled around the campsite, so shall we say, a few micro arts billboards, and I can't remember the name of the company that makes these bits. I think it's a Steamer or something like that, or Plasticraft. Can't quite recall. But yeah, like I said, it's just really good to see a new setup. So the other thing I'm running is my new Charontid. Running a list here with Charontid, Noctifer, and all of the normal Krakots and light infantry and support crew that you normally see me run. My opponent won the dice roll and decided to go for tableside and making me deploy first. I picked second turn, just because this mission's way easier to complete if you're able to survive the onslaught of a few rounds and then just move your data tracker onto the middle objective, either using smoke or stealth or camo or whatever means you have to get them over there. The first photograph I've taken really is just a photo of where my deployment zone is situated, where I've actually got a hidden deployment Noctifer. So obviously this Noctifer here is not actually on the table, he's hidden deployed. You can see my Krakot Renegade with Red Fury deployed further up, picking up, I believe, a super jump. There's a Imatron further up the field, landing successfully, and Bitten Kiss. We've got the Kiss helper bot there. A bit of a better look at the deployment zone and the table in general, so I'll just shift the cam over the side. Let's get out some color. What color are we going to use today? I'm going to go for some yellow. So this is the bottom sort of left. This is the left-hand corner of my deployment zone. I'm obviously standing over here at this couch and facing in this direction. But you can see my HVT, the combined HVT there. We've got a shrouded infiltrator inside this building, so he's not pictured in the photo. Imatron, of course, landing successfully up here. The Krakot we saw previously with the Red Fury is out in front, along with the Krakot with the 2 submachine guns inside this building. You can see one of his SMGs just sticking out if you zoomed in. He will be to the data tracker here, so that's where the data tracker is. Bit and Kiss around up there. I've got a Predator and another Predator here. Datterazzi. Obviously there to lob smoke. We're going to be putting our reserve model Charontid right there, but because of that, the Doctor is there to help him. We know that there's a Noctifer and hidden deployment on that location of that there. Echadron back here. He's facing back towards my deployment zone, but that's only because his gun's sticking out beyond his space and will clonk into the building, so he's actually facing that way, of course, in case somebody comes around the side, perhaps a drop trooper like a Hellcat. Playing against Nomads, if I didn't already say that. Imatron here. So that's a bit of a look at the left-hand side. The right-hand side of the deployment zone, let me just grab the pen. So right-hand side, there's this little corner which is ensconced in here where I've got the Echidron, the R-drone flash pulse spot. The classified objective, I believe, is just Extreme Prejudice. Bit and kiss there, we know where our crackouts are. So that's basically a view. You can see underneath here, the photo previously didn't show the stat chart, say. Just again, a great trooper for moving out of your deployment zone impetuously, throwing smoke very reliably with physical 14 plus 3 for short range, hitting on a 17. Doctor's helper bot right here, just so he can go up the stairs, go over here, and potentially revive the Noctifer. For example, if he's getting shot in my opponent's turn, and in my opponent's, second to last or last order, they get a wound on him, it's better to just drop unconscious rather than going dogged, because then you can just go and revive him rather than him dying straight away at the end of the turn, if you get my meaning. So we've taken the top of this building just so we can photograph the data tracker, which is our Krakot with double submachine guns, who's rolled up climbing plus, I believe, and extra speed. You can see the vague outline of my little orange camo marker model inside this doorway where a shrouded forward observer is hanging out nearby to our HVT, of course. So let's take a look at our opponent's side of the table and what he's bringing to the game. So this is the bottom left or left-hand corner of his deployment zone. He's got an interventor with, I think, an advanced hacking device, if I recall correctly. He's got a bandit elsewhere to perform the killer hacking duties. Moran forward observer here, and he's got his crazy koala on this side and this side next to his little HVT right there. Jaguar on top of the gantry-way. I don't think he bothered to make him prone, which I thought was kind of interesting. There's a flash pulse bot here overlooking the whole table, and a TR bot, sort of sticking out of the photo elsewhere there. This Alguacil here, I think, is just a normal one or even a lieutenant. I can't quite recall. And this guy, I can't remember whether he was like a paramedic or a normal hacker. He didn't really do too much that particular game, so never mind. My opponent running the old Grenza, who you don't see all that much. The Grenza comes with the Operation Ice Storm starter pack for Nomads, and he's a wonderful model. He's a little bit maligned. Most people don't really rate him very highly, including me, because he's just a sniper. He's just got MSV1. As soon as he just gets shot by an HMG, he's likely to just die. And in the active turn, well, he's quite static, isn't he? He can't move around the battlefield, get the sight lines he needs. He's just covering one area. And for some extra points, you can get an intruder. The intruder's more expensive, but the value of having MSV2 rather than MSV1 and having marker state rather than whatever the Grenza has is just absolutely crucial. It's just categorically a different unit because of those abilities. So that's why most people take the intruder multi-sniper. But running the Grenza, kudos for that. Here's the TR bot back down here. He's got a very thin sight line through part of the battlefield through the middle. We've got a Morlock as well, and that's it for this photo, really. This is a Alguacil HMG in vanilla Nomads, which you don't see very much because the HMG is just BS11. In the reactive turn, he's terrible. In the active turn, well, you'd probably be better off using a TR bot with assisted fire because then you're ignoring cover and you've got shock rather than just pure ballistic skill 11. So it's unusual to see this guy, but he's there nonetheless. Another Morlock and a Jaguar sort of sticking out the other sides of these buildings, as you can see. And on the far right flank, he has, you can see another Jaguar sticking out there that we saw previously. The other Morlock right over the other side here, so I think he's got 2 Morlocks total. And this little camo marker prone behind this wall here is in fact a bandit killer hacker. So that's what's hanging out there. The Grenza is in fact prone. We've got a close-up shot of him next to the flash pulse spot. There's his HVT, just another close-up photo, just admiring his paintwork. My reserve model now appears, the ominous Charontid, Lieutenant with HMG profile. I thoroughly recommend just using the HMG all the time. Sure, the plasma gun looks very powerful on paper, but you're having to go over the enemy lines and potentially commit to the model that you don't really want to commit. HMG allows you to be devastating at long range, control the battlefield, and not throw away your lieutenant. If your lieutenant does die as a result of taking an arrow, because this guy's quite good at arrows, well, Mnemonica is beautiful in that spot there. Really the best profile of them all. And there he is. My paint job is a little bit weird. I spray him black and then I water down some greens and yellows and oranges and just flood them into the cracks, and then I repaint over them with black and grey. It's kind of experimental. It doesn't actually look that great in my opinion, but it's definitely novel. It's interesting. I'll try something different next time I do a colour scheme, but for now, that's what we've got. My opponent's reserve model is another camo marker in his deployment zone, so I feel like he may have tricked me here. He's talked up the fact that he's got a Grenzer instead of an intruder, but it seems like he may have a Grenzer and an intruder because there's a camo marker going down in his deployment zone prone. What could it be? I think we can all guess. Alright, so first turn of the game, Nomads moving out, and the Morlock impetuously running through here, and of course has to do a normal dodge because the Charontid is overlooking the battlefield rather nastily, and cracks off an HMG shot, kills that Morlock, and makes him unconscious. The Grenzer, deciding he wants to take on the Charontid, stands up and draws some fire from the Charontid. Now, he's got 2 shots. If he connects with them both, I've got to take 4 armor saves, and if I fail 3 of them, then I lose my Charontid straight away. But with armor 5 plus 3 from cover, I'm hoping that this doesn't happen. Plus, the Charontid might even beat him in the face-to-face roll. Now, seeking to punish my opponent for this play, I decided to reveal my Noctifer now because the Grenzer is actually standing up in view of our friendly Noctifer here, and by forcing him to take 2 shots on return, that may either allow me a free normal roll if he directs both for shots against one target, or if he splits them, it just weakens his chance of killing either model. So he does indeed do that, plinks off 1 shot at the Noctifer, and the other shot at the Charontid. So against the Noctifer, he's Ballistic Skill, what, 12, 13 I think it is for the Grenzer, 13? Plus 3 for range, minus 3 for cover, minus 6 for TO camo, but plus 3 for obviously MSV1, ignoring part of that. So he's hitting on a 10 with 1 dice, whereas the Noctifer's just going straight, I think, at 12. Unfortunately, though, Grenzer rolls a crit. Those crits. So the Noctifer does manage to pass the armor save, resulted by the double action round, obviously crit plus the extra armor save, and goes dogged. So that's okay, because the Noctifer will still be useful for the remainder of his turn, helping to fend off attacks, and that's really all I'm trying to do. That is really my only strategy here, because if you guys see this little monolith here, this obstacle in the middle of the table, I really just have to move my data tracker to that at the end of the game. And I've got my data tracker here in this building. He's just got to walk out over to here. And if I can do that without losing him, then I win, hands down. So it's just a matter of surviving, really. So Noctifer goes unconscious, not unconscious, dogged. The Charontid actually beats the Grenzer in the face-to-face roll because he's only firing 1 dice at me. But the Grenzer tanks the armor save. So a little bit of luck from the Grenzer. Very lucky round. Now, seeing that he'll stand a better chance of killing the Charontid if he uses Intruder, knowing now that he's got to deal with a Noctifer and a Charontid with with our friend over there, the Grenzer, the Intruder stands up and starts shooting at the Charontid. Now, the Charontid, or Charontid, I don't know how you guys like to say it, ignores surprise shot, ignores the camouflage. It's just straight 14 to hit on a single dice, whereas the Intruder just wrap with the 4 shots on 12s. So the Intruder, I believe, does beat the Charontid initially, but does no damage. The Charontid eventually takes a wound and goes guts into cover, but he's spent a lot of orders doing this. So he's committed a couple from the Grenzer, or at least 1 from the Grenzer, a couple here from the Intruder. I've negated 2 orders from his main order group through the command token, and he's actually got a couple of Tomcats off the table, or Wildcats, or what are they called. So he doesn't have a lot of orders here. Here you go, the Charontid hit by the Intruder's HMG and ducks into cover with his guts maneuver. My opponent comes up with a plan here, which I think is a bit of a questionable plan. He's trying to throw smoke grenades around the table to avoid being hit by the Noctifer, and sending a chain rifle over to my side of the table. So let's watch. He moves in and tries to throw a smoke grenade, misses again, does manage to succeed it, blocks the line of sight through to where the Noctifer would see him, gets through here. You can see a whole bunch of smoke grenades being lobbed through this gap just because he's so worried about the Noctifer. And the plan here is to move one of his Morlocks all the way over to my side of the table. So he's continuing to belt them out. He's even trying to avoid the Shrouded here, which could actually attack him. In fact, the Shrouded doesn't bother because the Shrouded will just take a chain rifle if he reveals. And the Shrouded's going to be needing to actually attack this objective later in the game and contest it. Anyway, after spending the remainder of all of the rest of the turn's orders, he gets his Morlock into a position where he can potentially throw a chain rifle over my Predator and my Imatron and my Ichthydron. Now, the Predator responds with its own chain rifle. Just bear in mind, guys, those of you who aren't too familiar with how direct templates can work, you've got a silhouette here, and you've got a silhouette here from the Predator. The silhouette from the Imatron is actually a silhouette one, is a lot shorter. You are allowed to angle your, if I could take a different color pen for it, you are able to angle the cone of your blast template like above it if you want to. Like you can have it around here, and you can position it such a way that it doesn't touch your model, but it just clips your opponent's model. It doesn't have to directly just go wafting through the table in a direct line, straight, like centered on your opponent. That's not something that you need to do. Anyway, I get a bit unlucky here because the Predator fails his chain rifle armor save when they trade. The Morlock passes his armor save when they trade, but I do pass the armor save on the Imatron and the Ichthydron, so at least that part's lucky. A bit worried about this though, because now the Datrites is going to actually have to impetuous around the corner, and that's going to result in yet another chain rifle save. Comes to my turn now. Oh, by the way, just to backtrack to review that last Nomad's turn, I feel like a couple of things could have been done differently there. The Grenza attacking the Charontid, that was fine because it turned out the Charontid was just out of 32, and the Grenza had better odds. He couldn't have known about the Noctifer, so that's fine. The Intruder attacking the Charontid, that's perfectly normal, no problems with that plan. Throwing lots of smoke grenades around and trying to get his troopers over to my side of the table in the corner, probably not the best move. What I would have done is tried to maneuver on the other side of the table and use terrain to try and block line of sight as much as possible, and just trade some of his warbands with my Crack-Up Renegades, who are the frontmost units for me doing damage when it becomes my turn. That's what I would have done differently had I been him. So during my turn here, the the Datrites, I should say, is using Impetuous to come out here and just lobbing a sacrificial smoke grenade, and we call it a sacrificial smoke grenade here because he moves out in range of the Grenza and the Intruder, who, by the way, have not returned to prone state. That's really, really important. Well, the Grenza has, sorry, but the Intruder hasn't. So instead of spending his orders to move the Morlock over to my side of the table, what he probably should have done is have spent at least one order returning the Intruder back to being prone, because now he's likely to lose him. So the Datrites, see, throwing a smoke over here, it's not a normal roll because he's not positioned the smoke grenade so that it's blocking the line of sight from the Datrites to the Intruder and the TR bot or whatever's hitting him. So this Datrites Witch Soldier dies, and I've spent an order to deliberately restrain my other Datrites on the other side. I have to do that, otherwise I just lose more orders from the chain rifle. This Predator here now moves up impetuously and also gets shot at, but actually manages to successfully dodge. He's got quite a high physical stat. My opponent rolled poorly for the shots at him. So this Predator here actually lives through the oncoming barrage of arrows. Now that there is a smoke grenade positioned here, the Charontid stands up and lets loose against the Intruder, and it's 4 dice on 14s against 1 dice on a 13, and the Intruder is destroyed. He does not have a Doctor nearby, which again I feel is a surprising thing about his list. I would not have run the Alguacil HMG. I would have used a Dactari instead there, and used that other SWC somewhere else, I'm pretty sure. So Intruder goes down. Using some more smoke grenades with the help of this Datrite, so you can see at the bottom left of the photo, he's coming around and adding to the smoke cloudness. The Charontid is able to walk across the upper walkway here and move past the central buildings to get into line of sight of his flash pulse bot, which I do manage to destroy. His Grenza, I believe, tanks some armor saves and goes prone on the top of the building. But the plan is also to try and get into where his TR bot is situated. So if we just have a look at the overview of the table, his Intruder over here has been slain. The Charontid has just moved around from there to there. If I get the camera out of the way, so that's the Charontid here. He's able to now fire across the table at this flash pulse bot and eliminate him. And once I get a little bit further forward up to here, I'm going to be able to have a shot at his TR bot as well. Now, the TR bot, sadly, if it's shooting long range, it's -3 for range, -3 for cover, -6 for shooting back through smoke, and cannot hit me. So the Charontid was easily able to gobble up the TR bot and remove him as well. So pretty solid turn from the Charontid. And that ends it for, or nearly ends it for Combined Army, actually. There was a, I think a Jaguar sitting around here, but he might not have had line of sight through to where the Charontid actually is. So there's our friendly Charontid there. Just moving up to the foremost building that he can get to by following through the walkways and eventually going prone, just so he can't be shot back at by any models that end up showing up later in the active Nomads turn. So there's a bit of an overview of where he is. Let's just have a look at what's going on. So he's standing next to the Krakow with Red Fury. Dr. Worm has actually crawled over here with a coordinated order. That's also affected the Dachiratsu, who's returned to cover through here. And everybody else is sort of sitting pretty. With Group 2's orders, we've got a perfectly good Predator. And now that the ARO guns have been dismantled, the Predator is able to move through the smoke cloud, and he's planning on going around here, where there's actually a bandit sitting down prone behind a wall. So he goes over here and attempts to discover. The bandit goes for an engage, and I just hit him with a chain rifle. He fails the engage, but passes the armor save. So at least I've revealed his bandit, but the Predator not really able to do much. So with the Predator just hanging there with the last order, moves back around behind this obstacle, just so I can avoid the active turn a bit better, and trying another go with the chain rifle, but my opponent manages to survive that as well. Now, it's finally Nomad's turn 2. So first order of the day, although this intruder is unconscious, we move up with the Alguacil that has an HMG, and he managed to find some sort of gap between these two bits of terrain here, where we believed the silhouette of the Predator was sort of slightly clipping. So he managed to find some sort of line of sight there, and destroys the Predator with his Alguacil HMG. There it is there, just actually going dogged, I should say. It survives to the end of the turn, quite important, because if he's going to come through here with his bandit, if he's going to come around here, he's going to eat more chain rifles. So yeah, there is that. Alright, so we've got one of these drop trooper guys. I can't remember what you call. They're either Tomcats or Wildcats or whatever you call them. I think Tomcats. He's the paramedic with a combi inflamer. So he shows up and finding the exact angle where he cannot be hit by any arrows. And now he's able to sort of peek back and shoot at the Predator to destroy him. So that works. There you go. So he's able to just poke back through this line here, get a shot in the Predator and remove him. This allows him to sort of come through around with his Jaguar, and his plan, moving the Jaguar through the table here, is to put some smoke grenades around here. He knows the Charontid is prone, and he's going to try and walk up a ladder and into close combat with the Charontid. This up here. How does that go? Okay, so the Jaguar is able to successfully land some smoke grenades. He doesn't have that many orders to do this with, so eventually walks up into close combat. Now, the Charontid is armor 5, and he is, at least whipped, I think CC16. The Jaguar, if he uses martial arts level 2, his double action weapon is going to stand a greater chance of cracking the armor, but if he doesn't use martial arts level 1, he's not negating my stat line, and if he rolls poorly, I might end up beating him in close combat. Anyway, I'm already wounded, and after a couple of rounds of combat, the Jaguar is able to beat me enough times to cause enough double action armor save rolls to actually remove my Charontid. But of course, with Mnemonica, the whole Ghost in the Shell thing, the ghost of the lieutenant, his soul, is able to be dismissed and find a new location. Note that my Krakot cannot actually engage here. Just due to the finicky nature of this terrain here, the smoke grenade is still technically touching the Jaguar, and he's still technically touching the ladder. And I don't know how the rules work for it for sure, but so long as his silhouette is base to base with my silhouette in some way, even though they may be like on a different sort of level, then he's in close combat, and the Krakot can't actually see the Jaguar, so I can't declare an engage because I need line of sight for that. His Moran is now jumping down from the building and moving over to this objective on the left-hand side here to try and press the button, but fails his whip check and does not, in fact, press the button. He does bring in a couple of his crazy koalas, though, to set up with. So, my turn, and I need to remove this Jaguar before I do anything else, because I want to go on a run with my Krakot, but I don't want to take chain rifle hits. So, the man for the job today will be the Shrouded. So, he was tucked away in the corner of this building here. You can see him picking around the doorway there. He's able to shoot the Jaguar in the back because his line of sight marking was something like this, facing towards this way. So, the Shrouded, with his combi rifle, removes the Jaguar. Alright. This allows me now to jump down with my super jumping Red Fury Krakot. I love this guy. So he was positioned over here, jumps down here with super jump. There is a Moran over here who we saw previously attempting to press a button for acquisition. This is the middle objective, by the way, and that's the side one. So Red Fury along this angle, able to remove the Moran, no problem, with some shock rounds. As he steps forward a little bit further, jumping onto this crate here, just very carefully avoiding the Algosu with HMG, able to now target down this line here with his Red Fury. Takes out the Wildcat, the Drop Trooper, whatever he's called. Then, moving through here to take on the HMG. So for me, it's medium range. I get +3 with the Red Fury, -3 for cover. That's 4 dice on 11s. My opponent shooting back, Alguacil, 1 dice on 11 at medium range for the HMG. And he rolls a crit again, and my run is stopped. So, no more Krakot. I was planning on jumping down and killing the bandit as well with the Berserk at the end of this little run, but I've been stopped. So what happens next is Bit and Kiss moving forward here. Kiss goes first, of course, because there's a crazy koala here, and the Moran, just before it got killed, decided to press the button which sets the koalas in place to basically activate them and have them out on their own. So I'm just using Kiss, the remote, to just go and detonate them, basically. So sacrificing that model before I move Bit through, and Bit may be able to move on to the objective later in the game. So I'm just setting up for that. Our Shrouded here is cagily aware of the fact that there's still a bandit there. He's still got his HMG up here, and my Krakot stayed up here. So the Shrouded, just carefully moving out so he does not come into line of sight. Excuse me, wrong camera. And placing a mine here. That means that if the bandit comes around the corner, the mine's going to go off and hopefully ruin his day. I still have another turn after this, so I'm going to try and put the Shrouded back into camo state in the building and just wait until it becomes his time. You can see Bit and Kiss are moving to position, but the crazy koalas have destroyed Kiss. Just hanging out in the corner here behind this this billboard. Moving over now to Nomads turn 2. So his Interventor crawling forward and is able to use a crazy fast panda, not a crazy panda. I'm thinking about the crazy koalas. He's able to use a fast panda to deploy here and put Kiss in range, a bit in range of the panda. Now his Interventor is probably not the best model to take on a killer hacker because he's an advanced hacking device here. But he does have his Bandit, who does have a killer hacker device. Bandit just crawling across in this direction rather than over the wall, because as we saw last turn, there is a mine there. So our Bandit situated here is now able to use the Fast Panda created by our Interventor who was up here. The Fast Panda is in this location there, and the Combined Army Hacker is right there. So using the old electronical network thingy, the Wi-Fi, he is able to attack Bit and Kiss, and after a couple of attempts does manage to destroy the old Combined Army Killer Hacker and get that specialist out of the way. And I think he's done that because he doesn't want me crawling onto that objective later. Over here, he's got another one of these drop trooper dudes with the combi rifle light flamer. And my opponent told me that he looked around the battlefield and couldn't see anywhere suitable to land. So he decided to land right down here, even though it's in line of sight of a Dachshund. Alright, so bit of a crazy thing to have to do, but he's going to lose the model if he doesn't deploy him anyway. And the chain rifle goes off here and destroys the drop trooper. So a bit of a waste, unfortunately. Bam, there's the chain rifle. The Grenzer now stands up just because he wants to make it harder for me to do things in what will be the final turn of the game very shortly. This is Nomads turn 3, actually. So that's a good move, getting the Grenzer there to stand up. He's got to overlook the battlefield, because this middle objective here is going to be claimed by my Krakot, who's going to be able to walk out there. This objective over the left hand here for him has not been successfully captured by his Moran because I've killed him, and he's eliminated Bit and Kiss. This other objective on the side, he needs to get a specialist and base-to-base with it, but I've got my mine here, as we saw, so if he moves his bandit over there, it's not going to be great. He does also have his HMG still hanging out down on the side to stop me with. Moves up with his lieutenant onto this side here of the table, just to provide more arrows, basically. That's what you do if you do not have the last turn and you're trying to prevent things from happening. So just moving through, he's got a combi rifle to shoot through the center of the table if he wants to. Alright, so end of Nomad play, he's had 1, 2, 3 turns and has not scored even a single objective point. So all I need to do to win is to collect even a minimum of 1 point. And luckily, my classified objective is Extreme Prejudice. So the stat chart, so you see in the bottom right corner, could just move on to this dead Morlock here and complete the Extreme Prejudice classified by doing a coup de grace. So that puts me in a 1-0 lead, winning me the game. But just for good measure, and because it's good practice for tournaments, you want to get as large a margin of a win as you can. So that particular Dacharatse able to throw smoke here, allowing the Shrouded free reign to get into the objective, press the button on it, and end the game standing next to it, so that nets me an additional couple of points. Then moving out with my Krakot with double SMGs, he's having to contend with a combi rifle in the distance. So with me firing my long-range double SMGs, I think I'm hitting on 2s, on 4 dice. He's hitting on a pretty low number as well, and none of the shots connect. We just whiff everything. And after a couple of goes that, he eventually gets over to the billboard. And luckily, I'm able to use a cautious move to move around the billboard and just carefully into a spot where he starts in total cover and ends in total cover and manages to avoid the Grenzer on top of the building, allowing me to put my Data Draka in base-to-base with the final objective at the end, which gets me a ton of points. So it was a good game, a fun game, pretty big win to Combined Army by the end of it. I believe the Charontid did really well, did exactly what he needed to. Obviously, this would have been a very difficult game if I'd had to contend with Flash Pulses and TR Bots and Grenzers and Intruders, so you've got to have one really solid HMG long-range thing to be able to do that. I got a little bit unlucky in the sense that he got some pretty crucial crits and passed some crucial armor saves, but having said that, there were a lot of face-to-face rolls where everything went normal for me and I blitzed people as I should have, so you've got to not only count up the big swings, but the long runs of just having a little bit of good luck or having no bad luck. I think that's almost as important in some cases. I think my opponent probably could have managed his first turn a little bit better, and also if he had gone directly for second turn and just tried to defend against me, my army doesn't really have that much which can go and actually attack him with, apart from the Krakots, and if he's defending well enough with Crazy Koalas and obviously Morlocks, that would have been a great way for him to win, is just going straight for second turn and trying to defend really well against my particular list. I thought that probably would have worked. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll be coming back with another game against our friends from Hamilton, featuring Morats next game, Captain Cornac. The Soyat link that you guys see me loving to play, we'll be cranking that out inside of a spaceship. Special terrain. I'll see you guys on that one soon.